Welcome to the first season of the Ecologies of Danger podcast. Ecologies of Danger is a project produced by the students of a course on environmental security at Colgate University. In this season of the podcast, we look at the different ways in which the environment has become a security issue. In this episode, Zmoses questions whether violent water conflicts in India really are all about scarcity and overpopulation.
Whenever the issue of overpopulation is discussed, India represents the nightmare scenario. It will soon surpass China as the world's most populous nation. Some experts' predictions are really the stuff of doomsday. They say that water scarcity will worsen, food production won't keep pace with population growth, already weak infrastructure will fail to meet greater public needs, and income inequality will widen as mass slums expand. Essentially, the entire system will collapse if the population grows out of control. India is the favorite example of Paul Ehrlich, a renowned biologist who has been railing against overpopulation since the 1960s. Back then, he predicted,
sometime in the next 15 years, the end will come. And by the end, I mean an utter breakdown of the capacity of the planet to support humanity.
India was his case in point. While growing population does present a problem, India's story cannot be simplified down to this. Water and food scarcity do exist, but they aren't caused by overpopulation. Scarcity is more tied to a combination of political, economic, social, and environmental forces. Add all the factors up, and you have a country where 100 million people don't have access to clean water or adequate food. This has led to instability and conflict, particularly in southern India. Climate change has altered the regularity of monsoons and increased temperatures during the growing season. In recent years, the drought in India is worse than it's been in the past century. As a result, groundwater resources have dwindled and crop yields have fallen. Overall, the environment for farmers has become too volatile, forcing them to protest, sometimes violently. A BBC reporter met with Sukhdev Singh, a farmer in Punjab, to talk about this water shortage. Singh says, in his native language, that we have taken a lot of water out of the ground, and that good quality water has finished. We've now decided to dig deeper, and it's a little better, but it's still not the best quality. The reporter points out, when asked about his own debt situation, Singh explained that he is deep in debt. He added that this causes high levels of stress and causes people to resort to suicide. In fact, there were several farmers in Sukhdev's village that took their lives in the past year alone. This is not an isolated issue. Approximately 300,000 farmers have done so since the mid-1990s. The farmer suicide rate is almost 50% higher than the national average, and there are a lot of reasons why. Agriculture, once the most vibrant sector in India, is deteriorating. Vandana Shiva, a leading environmental scientist in India who focuses on water conflict, gives her perspective. But we'll get back to her work a little later. India suffers from extreme mismanagement of its dwindling water resources due to poor government policies, ranging from sanitation to exploitation and overuse. A Vice reporter traveled to India to expose how poor sanitation infrastructure has contributed to India's water crisis.
This is literally sitting contaminated water, and people are breathing and smelling this every day.
From here, the water drains untreated directly into local waterways.
Completely contaminated water flows into these rivers that are used for drinking, bathing, and agriculture. About 80% of sewage in India is untreated and disposed of in rivers, lakes, and groundwater. On top of this, open defecation is a common social practice and contributes to groundwater contamination, as Sashi Tharoor, former member of the Indian Parliament, explains.
Being in a country that has more temples than toilets is certainly a bit odd. But in some people's mindsets, they simply haven't grown up being used to using a toilet. It's habit to some degree. For generations, I guess, they found it comfortable and pleasant to be communing with nature. So you have open defecation that puts toxins into the groundwater, which in turn affects the water kids drink and the food that grows or they eat.
But this problem is not just cultural or social. Mass slums and poorer areas of India simply do not have any infrastructure or plumbing. The Indian government has failed to provide all of its people with proper infrastructure, forcing many people to resort to this practice. By not creating clean sewage and plumbing systems, the Indian government is making the problem a lot worse. Government management and regulation of water is also ineffective. The number of groundwater wells and pumps has shot up from a few thousand to over 30 million in the past 40 years.
Because of the heavy exploitation of groundwater, the groundwater table is going down and down. There is a scarcity of water, everybody has to face the problem. We do not have proper management for the water, so we have to think about the appropriate management of the water system, rather a river system.
That was Dr. B.D. Tripathi, professor of environmental sciences. While proper management is a must, corruption, rivalries, and lack of political will continue to stymie progress. This political inaction mainly hurts the poor and more vulnerable citizens. Unequal distribution of water is a common story in India, where the wealthier can afford to pay for water from other sources. Many people cannot afford to dig wells. Some must rely on water trucks that come just a few times a week. CNN gives us some insight into this inequality.
This is a tap that the government turns on 3 times a day. Without it, they wouldn't have access to clean drinking water.
Besides this spigot, people here get water from illegal groundwater pumps installed by those who can afford them.
And this is where we return to Vandana Shiva. She has written extensively about how water in India has become a privatized commodity. She says that instead of following the laws of ecology and the hydrological cycle, water is forced into the law of the market. Instead of following the law of gravity and flowing downwards, it's flowing upwards to money. Over the past several decades, thousands of large dams have been constructed throughout the country. Many were placed irresponsibly, causing mass migrations and ruining thousands of acres of farmland. Most of them have been financed by the World Bank, an institution focused more on returns on investment than severe ecological and social costs. Power-laden political and economic processes determine access and control over water. This has caused conflict within India, especially in southern India. Economic forces controlling water resources interact with politics and the environment in a way that breeds instability and violence. Vandana Shiva brings all these factors together here.
If we do not prepare, we will have civil war. People will fight. I've seen so many cases where people are fighting and killing each other over tankers of water. In Rajasthan, 5 people were shot dead because they were farmers and wanted to retain the water for their fields, and the government wanted to take it to the cities because tourism is big in Rajasthan. 5-star hotels want more water, want running taps, want swimming pools, want bathtubs, if you please. All of that means more water for the big cities.
So where is this civil war? In Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, a long dispute over the Kaveri River waters boiled over recently into violence. This past September, the Indian Supreme Court ordered the state of Karnataka to release 12,000 cubic feet of water every day for 7 days to its neighbor because of intense drought. In response, protests erupted, riot police were deployed, and civilians were killed. While water scarcity in India is real, there's an aspect of it that is manufactured. Scarcity is not driven by depletion, overpopulation, and distribution. Powerful political and economic actors control access and distribution of water. Meanwhile, climate change and its impacts on water resources continues to loom overhead. India must fix its political, economic, and social problems if it wants to avoid more intense violence. Water wars have already begun in India, and they will worsen before they improve. This is Zmoses at Colgate University on water scarcity in India.